report I saw. So should we call the second person of this interview or because pulling another call will take a lot of time?
I had a piece of
Can
paper.
I call the second person?
I had a piece of paper there.
Catherine Alan?
Paper.
Huh? No, we move there.
I had a piece of paper that said general meeting procedure.
I didn't see it. Uh-oh. Your backpack?
No, someone took it.
Oh.
So what?
Why would someone
General
take
meeting
it?
procedure.
I didn't touch anything on her.
Yeah. That's not good. I said that's not good.
Bart. Bart, did you take a piece of paper from here?
No, I gave you your paper back. What were you looking for? The first one here?
I have it on my computer, but I just like to have it provided.
The first one that I grabbed when I clicked back.
I didn't give you it, but I don't know.
No, I didn't just steal paper from. I don't think I had a cup though, but.
No, I'm not accusing you. I'm just.
Okay, no, I don't know where it was.
Yeah, fair enough. Sorry, they're also eating. They're okay. Yeah.
All right, everyone, we're getting started. I'd ask again for anyone who has a bracelet and a voting card just to come grab a seat, and we're about to get started. So my name's Andrew. You can call me Andrew. I'm the chair of the DSU Council. I'm also the chair for this special general meeting. We're all here because of this. This is a petition that was signed by 101 students, verified by the registrar's office on February 12th, calling the general meeting. And so that satisfied the requirement of Bylaw 9, Section 2. And so the petition itself actually called for the meeting to be held on Wednesday, February 26th. And so that was clearly a mistake. And so the president exercised his discretion to hold the meeting on today's date, which is Wednesday, February 25th. And so notice for today's meeting and a tentative agenda were posted on the DSU website on February 12th, the same day that the registrar verified the petition. And so a question arose whether or not that was sufficient notice under the rules to hold the meeting. And the answer to that question is yes, because the rules don't stipulate any notice requirements for a special general meeting called to consider the union status in an external advocacy organization. Notice requirements for a general meeting only apply to general meetings called to consider constitutional amendments. And so, as a sidebar, some of you here and some people elsewhere may be wondering if that's wise. I'm not making any comment on that, but I urge you during debate on the motion today to consider the union status in Students Nova Scotia to confine your comments to the merits of that motion and not the sufficiency of the notice for the meeting, because after all, we're all here and we have quorum. So the point is that notice requirements only apply for a general meeting called to consider constitutional amendments. And so that brings me to my second point. So any vote that may be held at this meeting is going to be advisory only. That's because any change in the union's membership in an external advocacy organization has to go through council and the Board of Operations. That's from Bylaw 7, Section 8. That's what I said at the February 11th meeting of council, and that's what our lawyer confirmed. So, and there's also a decision from the Judicial Board dated March 22nd, 2009, stating that any motion passed at a general meeting cannot have the effect of usurping the authority of student government institutions as set out in the Constitution. And so therefore, any change in the union's membership in an external advocacy organization affected at a general meeting is null and void. The purpose of this meeting is not to vote definitively on whether or not we remain in Students Nova Scotia. It's to have a discussion. It's to ask questions. It's to express your opinion, and to generate discussion and dialogue. What is said at this meeting is going to be very valuable for when council makes the decision on Friday at the meeting of council. And so I want to avoid a situation where council feels bound by any vote that may be held tonight. Now, I've heard some individuals express concern to me about my proposal to hold any vote on our membership in Students Nova Scotia by voice instead of by hand, by yeas and nays instead of people holding up their cards. A voice vote would capture the nature of tonight's decision as non-binding. It's kind of like a plebiscite, as opposed to a referendum. A vote by hand would come close to usurping council's authority as it is laid out in the Constitution. And so there can be no stick handling around the functions of student government institutions as defined by the highest governing document, right? The Constitution can only be changed at a general meeting. And so the Constitution itself says that a general meeting cannot hold a vote to definitively determine the union status in an external advocacy organization. And to hold a vote on that would weigh heavily on council's mind when it votes on Friday. And so that's why I'm proposing to have a vote by yeas and nays. Now, so many of you may be asking, well, can we have a vote by hand anyway, right? And so the answer to that question is maybe, but not if I have anything to do with it. If you want to have a hand vote, okay? If you want to have a hand vote, you have to wait until the end of the vote. And I'm relying on the policy right here, section 9B of the union rules, right? It says during the vote, that doesn't come up there at all, doesn't it? It says during the vote, any member may move a motion for an alternate vote if the request is made immediately after the result is announced. The motion requires a seconder and a simple majority to pass. A motion for an alternate vote invalidates the previous results. That's what that says there. And so if someone raises their hand or shouts, hand vote after the voice vote, then I'll ask for a seconder. And if it's seconded, I'll rule out of order for the reasons I've just provided. And so my ruling is to challenge. And so anyone can move to challenge my decision, and then that motion will require a seconder, and then there's going to be a debate on that. And if the students here tonight decide that they want to have a hand vote and disagree with my ruling, then they're entitled to do that. And that's why I've brought the voting box behind Rams here with the cards. I'll get to you in a moment. So my point here, I guess, is to park the concern about voting until we get to the point of the agenda where we actually have to vote, and then you have the chance to think about it. And so, my friend, do you have a point of information? Do you want to ask a question about what I just said?
I've never actually heard of the voice vote. What is it?
Would all those in favor please say yay?
Yay.
Would all those opposed please say nay?
So is it based on loudness?
The point is that the vote is non-binding. So I don't want to avoid the situation where at council people are saying, well, X number of people voted in favor and Y voted against, therefore we have to vote in accordance with the general meeting. Who is going to say at council, we have to vote with the loudness of the meeting, right? That comes a little, like a hand vote comes a little bit closer to usurping the authority of council than a voice vote does. That's my point, okay? That's my point. Yes.
Sorry, I'm relatively experienced in student politics. I just want to know how you can, because there determine who is eligible by a voice vote and why do we have voting cards?
It's a very good question. We have voting cards because there may be other votes that come up, motions to extend debate and so on. And to answer your first question, I think I want to be able to trust people. And so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to ask people who have cards and bracelets to sit down, and for everyone else who doesn't have a card or a bracelet to stand up. We can all see the people who are going to be standing up, and we can all see whether or not they're going to be speaking when I ask for yeas and nays. Do you have a point of information, John?
Yeah, I'm a DSU counselor, and I'm not stupid. I know that this vote is non-binding. That's all. I get it.
Let's move on. I'm not implying that you're stupid, John. I would never imply that. Okay, so let's move on to the agenda. So there's one motion on the agenda. Everyone knows it's to determine the union's status in Students of Nova Scotia. It's the only motion on the agenda. And so any other motions to amend the constitution or policy will be ruled out of order. If you have, in the course of debate, you have like a suggestion about something that maybe changed the constitution or policy, by all means bring it up, but we won't be able to deal with it here. It will have to be dealt with at council, and we're meeting at 6:30 supposedly, and also on Friday. So you're welcome to come there or to relate your concerns to your counselor. And so now there's the opportunity to put discussion items on the agenda. Students had the opportunity to send myself a topic of discussion 20 hours in advance of the meeting. I didn't get any emails. But in a minute, I'll invite anyone who wants to add a discussion item to the agenda to raise their hand. But first, I just want to say that I have little doubt that discussion today is going to be thoughtful and respectful. I don't want to remove someone's speaking rights for getting on a line, but I don't think that I'll have to do that. If you have something to say, we welcome you to come to the mic. We also have a roving mic, and the individual who has the roving mic is holding it up. And yeah, I'll keep a speakers list if you raise your hand. And just please state your name before you make your point. And again, all individuals present are welcome to contribute to discussion. It's not just limited to students. And so the last thing is just please try to stay on topic. If you stray from the topic under discussion, I'll wait for like a natural break in your speech to sort of guide you in the right direction. But if afterwards you continue on some rant, then I'm going to recognize the next person in the speakers list. So before we get going, I'll ask if there is anyone who wants to add a discussion item to the agenda. Yes, Dan.
I would like to add attendance of SNS meetings by the DSU as a discussion item.
So the question is whether that's relevant to the motion that's already on the agenda. Because if it is, then we don't need a motion to have it as a separate thing, right? I think it is relevant to the discussion surrounding our membership.
I thought you meant speaking points.
No. So like, what's relevant is anything that's relevant to the union's continued status and membership in Students Nova Scotia. So that's a very broad topic, and yeah. So is there any other individual who would like to add something to the agenda? Okay, so seeing none. Sorry. Okay, so seeing none. Here's the agenda. Right. Now, in the union rules, there's some provision for the executive to give a report, and I note that it's not on the agenda. I had a bit of trouble adding the proper agenda to the website, and so at this point, I want to solicit a motion from anyone to add exec reports to the agenda. And Sager, seconded by Dylan. Okay, so the motion is to add executive reports to the agenda. Around that? Yes, Rams.
It'll essentially be the same vote, report. Our reports will be essentially the same ones given tonight at the council meeting, just to give people a heads up.
Okay, that's a good thing to bring up. And perhaps I should ask. We should probably put it after the motion, right? Because people are here to talk about Students Nova Scotia. So I'm proposing to add executive business after the only item in new business. Does that accord with the mover and the seconder? His intention?
Well, I mean, if the motion's for council, or sorry, if you review or the report is for council, just let it be for council. Normally, I would assume an exec reports to be for the entirety for any general meeting, right? So, I retract the motion.
Well, it's the property of the assembly now, so it's not able to be retracted. But I guess you're essentially advising people to vote against it, is what you're saying. Yeah. Okay. Is there any further discussion around adding executive reports to the agenda? So seeing none, we'll move to a vote whether to add executive reports to the agenda. Do you understand the question? If you don't understand the question, do something like this, and we'll vote by hand. So the question is whether to add executive reports to the agenda. All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, so the motion fails. Would anyone like their dissents or abstentions noted in the minutes, or assents and abstentions noted in the minutes? So after every vote, I'll ask if the people on the losing side want their vote recorded in the minutes, which will go on the website to show that you disagreed with the decision that happened. Okay, so no one wants to do that. All right. There are no a motion to adopt the agenda. Ali, seconded by Scott. And the question is whether to adopt the agenda. Do you understand the question? All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries. Would anyone like their dissents or abstentions noted in the minutes? No. All right. And so there are no communications received. Actually, no, there is one communication received. And so we'll deal with that now, actually. Right. And so I received a letter from and I'm just trying to pull it up here.
Point of order, Andrew.
Yeah.
The letter was addressed to council, right? So is that pertinent for the general assembly?
It was addressed to yourself and myself, Rams, and also CC to the Gazette and the council. And so, I mean, it was sent to the chair before the general meeting, and so I would solicit a motion to have the letter read. Bart, I'm soliciting motions. And so Bart moves, seconded by Amelia, to have the letter read. Is there any discussion around having the letter read to council? Yes. In Students Nova Scotia, I should clarify. And it was sent Wednesday, February 25th, today. Sent Wednesday, February 25th from Students Nova Scotia, addressed to myself and the president, and CC to council and the Gazette. Jen, if you have a point you'd like to make, then you're welcome to make it. But I would suggest that you grab a mic.
Thank you. The point that I would like to make is that that was addressed to you as the chair of council, not as the chair of this general meeting, and it was addressed to council, not to the general membership. If they wanted to have an open letter to the general membership, they would have been able to do that through their website or other means. And so I think that we should respect the fact that it was addressed to council.
I see Bart. And I'm keeping a speaker's list.
Just point of information, is there a separate email for chair of the council and chair of the general meeting, or is there just one chair email?
I'll read the email. Good afternoon. Please consider the attached open letter and circulate it to the members of the DSU Council. It has not been circulated to the members of the DSU Council, but it's relevant to the discussion. It's relevant to the discussion, so I solicited a motion to have it read aloud. And whether it's read is not up to me, it's up to you. And the next person on the speakers list is Dan. The next person on the speakers list is Dan.
Hello, I'm Daniel Smith. I'm an architecture and planning rep, and I actually solicited Students Nova Scotia to. Can you please? I solicited Students Nova Scotia to send me something so that I could properly represent them and look at both sides of the story. So they sent, "Hi Daniel, here's the open letter that we just sent. In regards to my question, if they have anything to be said at this meeting, please send it to be read out. And if they wanted me to read it out, then I'll read it out later." So you're going to hear it either way. Either you're going to hear it now or you're going to hear it later from me.
I'm trying to keep track of individuals on the speakers list. Please remind me of your name, sir. Okay. Next, I have Amelia.
I was just going to say the same thing. It was also sent to me, so I would read it if necessary.
I see Rams.
Yeah, I mean, this already been said. This was addressed to council, so I don't think in the interest of expeditiousness, we should get to the meat of the topic. Although if Amelia and Dan want to read it, that is their prerogative. But as a collective, I don't think we should have a discussion on that.
Ali, and please remind me of your name in the gray. Or I'm a bit colorblind. Elizabeth. I have Ali. Or sorry, I have Jacqueline.
I would just like to point out that the letter was also sent to the Gazette, so I imagine they didn't really mean for it to be kept a secret from anyone. Secondly, I also reached out to Students Nova Scotia about a week and a half ago, asking if anything could be communicated, what should happen at council, what should happen here. We had a meeting on Friday over the phone, lasted about an hour, and nothing was forwarded to me. They didn't ask for anything. So I got sent nothing except I was forwarded this letter by Rams after. So I'm the one most expressly mentioned in it, and I have no problem with it being read aloud. It says nothing bad about me.
I have Ali. I have Mo. Jamel?
Sorry, my question was the motion already put forward to have it read? Not yet?
No. What happened was that I received a text message from Rams asking what I was going to do about the open letter. And I asked, what open letter? I'm explaining myself. I asked, what open letter? And so he sent me the email, and I said, okay. I thought to myself, I should ask if this should be read aloud at the annual general meeting. And that's what we're doing now. It was Bart, seconded by Amelia, who put it on the floor. And now we're discussing it. The merits of whether or not it should be read aloud.
So the motion, so I'm getting confused a little bit here. So the motion is already forward whether the letter should be read or not, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And next I have Elizabeth. And please, what is your name, sir? Julian. Okay, I see Elizabeth.
My point's already been made pretty much, but you don't CC something to journalists unless you want everybody to know.
I see Julian.
As a quick point, if this letter is to be read at council regardless, council meetings are recorded. You can watch them anyway, so you are going to hear it publicly either way. So I say I agree with Rams. We just move on, get to the meat of this issue. And if you do want to hear this note, somebody else, if you bring it up at later, cool. But I don't think it's our decision to have that letter read aloud. We will receive it anyways.
I see Jesse.
Hi, so that letter was sent to the Gazette today, and Students Nova Scotia over Twitter just sent us a link to where they've posted it on their website, and we've just published a link to that. So if you just go to twitter.com/DalGazette, we've just published a link, and you can read that letter if you want, and I think it's pretty clear that they want it public.
I see John.
I don't know. This is kind of silly. I'd like to call the question on this motion.
Does the motion have a seconder? Jamel. And so there's someone on the speakers list, so we'll have to have a vote whether or not to call the question. Calling the question ends debate, and we move directly to a vote. And so the question is to call the question. Do you understand the question? All those in favor? All those opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Would anyone like their dissents or abstentions noted in the minutes? Okay. The question is whether to have the letter from Students Nova Scotia sent today to myself, Rams, and CC to Council in the Gazette read aloud immediately. And so, do you understand the question? All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, so the motion does not carry. Would anyone like their assents or abstentions noted in the minutes? Bart, how did you vote? Anyone else? Elizabeth, how did you vote? Anyone else? Okay. And so now debate will commence on the motion to have the union disaffiliate from Students Nova Scotia. And so I would invite anyone to come forward or to raise their hand. And I will be maintaining a speakers list. And so the first person that I will recognize is Jacqueline. So I would invite you to come forward to the mic to speak to the motion, unless you have another point.
I was just going to ask if you could please read the motion that we're voting on first, like in its entirety.
Thank you. You're quite right. So I'll read the motion. Whereas the Dalhousie Student Union bylaws allow for a general meeting to be called when a petition signed by 100 members of the Dalhousie Student Union is presented to the president, and whereas general meetings are one of two ways that individual members of the student union are able to set the direction of the union, and whereas the issue of the $95,000 students currently pay to Students Nova Scotia is an important issue for the general student union membership, and whereas Students Nova Scotia requires notice of any changes to membership by March 1st, therefore, we, the undersigned, petition the president of the Dalhousie Student Union to hold a special general meeting at 5 p.m. on Wednesday, February 26, 2015, for the sole purpose of debating and deciding on the following item motion. Be it resolved that the Dalhousie Student Union terminate its membership in Students Nova Scotia. And now I suppose I should ask for a seconder. Is that Dylan? Okay. And so now debate will commence on the motion. And I recognize Dan, first of all. If anyone else wants to say something like right now, just hold your hand up and I'll take your name down in order and invite you to the mic in order. But for now, I'll recognize Dan.
Hello, you've already heard from me. I'm just going to read out the letter that I received from Students Nova Scotia.
Well, I mean...
Is this okay?
I want to preserve the spirit of what the General Assembly has asked for, and so perhaps what you really want to do is to...
Summarize it?
No. Perhaps what you really want to do is to move to have it read, but we've already dealt with that, and so you can't have the same motion voted on twice at the same meeting.
Point of order?
Yes, Jamel.
I think he is allowed to make points on what the letter is.
Sure, but I don't know...
I will rephrase it. I will not read the letter at this moment.
Yeah.
Which helps in the general membership to understand what SNS is doing and what DSU's role has been in that matter. So if he puts forward what the points are, that will make more sense rather than reading the letter, which the general membership did not approve.
The point of order is well taken, and I think the way to preserve the spirit of the motion, Dan, and for everyone to have faith that you're not reading from the letter, right?
I should put my phone down.
Thank you.
Okay, well then, I can't...
Did you just censor his ability to speak in favor of Students Nova Scotia?
No.
Don't worry about it. Anyways, so the first talking point that I would like to make is just about the involvement in trying to get Students Nova Scotia to do things that Dal is wanting them to do. At the attendance of their meetings, I've asked them how many meetings have Dal, whatever, I don't care. How many meetings have been attended by Dal, and apparently this is 6 or 5 meetings have been missed out of 18, and some of the people that have gone to these meetings, I'm trying not to quote anyone on this letter because I don't have the exact information, they have missed these meetings and have left early. Therefore, how can they say that Students Nova Scotia is not representing Dal when Dal is not representing themselves to Students Nova Scotia? And that's what I would like to say.
I have Jomel.
Thanks, Andrew. Okay, hey folks, my name is Jomel, and I'm the Section Campus Director for the Dalhousie Student Union. I represent Section, and this is what I've just got to say. There have been many folks approaching me asking, what's this whole thing about SNS and what's the whole thing about CASA? And I don't want to talk much about CASA because we have left everything with CASA and we have no relationship with them, but it's all about SNS right now. Students are asking, well, we had a great day of action, we had a big rally. Is that the reason SNS did not support the day of action? Is that the reason why we are leaving SNS? Well, I just want to clarify that is just one reason why we want to leave SNS. SNS does a lot of other things, but just considering the point that the SNS doesn't support day of action should not be the only point coming to a conclusion that we need to leave SNS. That being said, I want to clarify myself. I am not saying that I want to leave SNS, nor am I saying I want to join SNS. I am a big fan of the day of action. I was also one of the person who was in the rally. I supported freezing tuition fee hikes. So I should be technically against SNS because it doesn't support my voice. But at the same time, there are other things as well we need to consider. The two main things that came forward, the dentistry scandal, the day of action, these were the two highlights that were put forward as the reasons. Well, we might get to know other possible reasons of why we want to leave SNS, but this is what the main highlight is coming forward. We, as the DSU came forward and advocated for students who are involved in the dentistry scandal, advocated for students, international students who are having tuition fees hike, and we should leave SNS. That's the main highlight. Again, I want to repeat myself. There are many things that we need to consider when we decide and vote that we want to leave SNS. That being said, I want everyone to just give a thought. Are these two reasons should only be the reasons why we need to leave SNS? Don't you folks want to know what are the other reasons we need to leave SNS? Would you guys agree to the fact that if we had on our plates that said, okay, this is the reason why we are leaving SNS, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, point out all the reasons why we want to leave SNS, think about it, talk to our constituencies, and then come and vote and saying, yes, this is the reason why I want to leave SNS, or no, this is the reason why I do not want to leave SNS. This is the only reason why I'm coming forward and asking you guys to vote accordingly. I'm not here to endorse a yes vote, I'm not here to endorse a no vote. It's time for us to think logically, make sense, and make our votes. Every student needs more understanding of every DSU motion that comes forward. That is really important. We have more than 18,000 students in Dalhousie campus. How many of us, very honest, be true to yourselves, how many of us know what the SNS is doing? That doesn't make even 10%, right? That's not even making 10%. So again, I'm trying to clarify myself. It's not about a yes or no vote. I'm not trying to endorse. I'm just trying to make you guys have a sense of how important the DSU motion is, because it's all going to reflect what you guys are going to do, because your vote is reflecting your constituencies. We should have that in mind. Another thing, there are these 2 or 3 reasons that does not prove why the DSU needs to pull out of SNS, and I'm probably understanding that Jacqueline would come forward and put forward the reasons also why, or whoever says that I am in favor of leaving SNS would come forward and put these motions, put the points forward and say that these are the reasons why we need to leave SNS. More than approximately $95,000, am I correct, Mehboob? Okay, it's approximately $95,000 that's going to come in the DSU accounts, and we have no idea how we are going to spend every dollar. So what I'm trying to say here is, okay, let me put it in this way. Every one of you, when you leave the room, I want you guys to put $5 at the table and leave. Please. Trust me, do it. I will spend it the right way. Trust me, do it. Are you guys going to put $5? Are you guys not going to ask me, where are you going to spend the money? What are you going to do with $350 with 75 people quorum, right? So what I'm just trying to make a sense of what of this 95,000 approximate dollars money that's going to come in our account. If we have a proper understanding, this is how we are going to spend $10 or $100. We are going to hire staffs to do this. We are going to have a proper working around what's happening, what's not happening. That is the time which I personally think, and I'm sure most of the section students would agree to the fact that that is the only way we can understand that, yes, my DSU wants to help students. We have $95,000 with us. This is the way we are going to spend, and let's vote a yes together. That's called as a vote. It's not a vote where, yeah, the DSU planned the day of action. SNS did not support us, so let's vote against SNS. No, that's not called a vote. That is the only reason why I wanted to come forward and have a sense around this whole issue. Thank you.
Now, I'm not sure if Amber, I'm not sure if you had your hand up for the purpose of speaking. Okay, so Maboob is next.
So I want to just answer some of the Jomel's questions. So number one thing, the $95,000 which came from the university, part of that was due to fee increase with a referendum with $3 per full-time student and $2 per part-time student. And DSU decide to not to be the member of SNS anymore. Students need not to pay that fee, $3 per full-time student, $2 per part-time student. So at last year, each full-time student paid $5.77. So most of it, $3 per student, will not be collected by DSU at the first hand. And the other part is paid from DSU operations budget. And I think that might be around 40,000 or 45,000, whatever that is. And the question is from the general membership, what I'm trying to get, you have a trust on us collectively as executive and as VPFO to me to make a decision around the $2.8 million budget. I think I'm doing a great job. Yes. The thing I'm saying in confidence, because when I get into the position, we had a budget for this year that was a deficit budget, and the revised budget, that is a surplus one, and that was appreciated by the council. Most of council members know how I did that. And part of that was to increasing more support to the societies, more support to the member, and making an efficient budget that it reflects some of the students' need. And I think the way moving forward, we have to make the decision this year. This year's VPFO will be elected, and students has more route to ask the VPFO candidates whatever the amount is, 40,000, or you want to ask the whole 2.8 million, what the VPFO candidate is going to do. So you have the option asking those candidates the questions during the election period, and there is transparency still there, and that was created by our general membership in the last annual general meeting. So moving forward, I think it's not a question about that keeping some money and who is going to spend, how is going to spend. DSU budget will be approved by the DSU council, and before that, it will be discussed in the council meeting. It will go through Bob's. So it's not like a random person making decision of some few $1,000s. And again, I would say this year's VPF will be elected. So lots of chance of the students to put forward questions. So I think from my speech, you have clear understanding. It's not about random money, and it's about the process. And from the financial management, I think DSU is moving into the right direction. So you can trust on us. Thank you.
Okay, say what you want to say.
I'd like to make a motion to move into a moderated debate at 2 minutes maximum speaking time for half an hour.
So the motion is to have, it's twofold, to limit individual speeches to 2 minutes each, and to have only 30 additional minutes for debate. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Does that motion have a seconder? Jamel, do you have or you do? Okay. So the motion is to limit individual speeches to 2 minutes and to have 30 minutes additional debate. Is there any discussion around that type of thing? Yes, is that Dylan? You want to alternate between those who are in favor and those who are against. That is a good suggestion, and to ensure that, I would ask speakers to identify at the outset of their speech if they're speaking in favor or against. If you are speaking, if you're just asking questions or you don't wish to speak in favor or against, then just say that as well, and we'll put you on the speakers list. John. That's an excellent suggestion. Yazan, I'm assigning you as the no mic, and that will be the... Well, it'll get confusing then, won't it? So, the vote to... I heard someone? Did I hear a voice? So the vote to limit the debate in that manner requires a 2/3 vote, and that's from Robert's Rule 30. What's your name, sir? Jeremy? Just go up to any mic and tell them that you're neutral. Neutral was the word I was looking for. Okay. Any further discussion around the way we want to structure the debate? So seeing none, we'll move to a vote whether to limit individual speeches to 2 minutes, alternate between yay and nay with neutrals interspersed as needed, and to have a total of 30 minutes of debate in total. And the vote will require 2/3. Do you understand the question? All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, so 32 to 15, the motion carries. Would anyone like their dissents or abstentions noted in the minutes? Okay. There's no one on the speakers list now, so debate will resume for anyone who wishes to come up to the mic. Either mic. You're right. Okay, so you're speaking in favor.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yazan Matari. I'm a member at large with the DSU Council. Jamal highlighted a good point. He asked who here has, knows what the SNS is doing, and not a lot of us raised their hands, and including myself, I didn't raise my hand, and I think that's the issue, right? Because SNS, in the 6 months that I've been in council, I've only heard one presentation from them. In contrast, let's compare that to another organization, CFS, for example. I have seen them at least 3-4 times on campus engaging with students. Despite the fact that my union is not part of SNS, I've had more engagement, is part of SNS, but is not part of CFS. I've had more engagement from CFS than from SNS, and I think that's a key issue. We are the largest, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone? We are the largest members of SNS, to my understanding, which means that we need to be really influential in that regard. But as of yet, what our union passes is regularly disagreed with by SNS from where I stand. So we have the Day of Action, for example, where we openly supported it, participated in it, and so on. SNS seemed very reluctant to do so, and that's putting it mildly. So I think it's very important for us to note that it's not that the fact that we don't know what SNS is doing as general members is not does not signify that we that the fault is on us. But I think that the fault is on SNS because I've heard other organizations speak to us on these issues, like organizations that we're not part of. So.
Does anyone wish to speak in opposition to the motion? Bart?
Hi, I'm Bart Soroka. I'm an on-again, off-again member of the DSU Council. I'd just like to make some points in regards to talking about how certain other organizations are on campus more and we need to, hear more from Student NS. I think you're right. I think that absolutely we need to make sure that we're hearing from the organization that we're paying money to. But I've also been part of an organization where trying to bring information to campus is very, very difficult when you don't have engaged people from the campus coming to meetings and then bringing it to the campus. I was engaged with campuses that were not my own and trying to bring information to them, but without individuals coming to meetings, getting information and giving me information about their campuses, it was very difficult for me to actually be able to, get down there and get in there. And from the information I have provided, I have been provided with, it looks like the DSU representation to Student NS has not been attending SNS meetings. And that makes it really hard to figure out what the DSU needs. And speaking specifically for how the CFS has been on campus, that's great, but they have a lot of paid staff that can travel the country to do stuff like that. They get a lot of money from Ontario, from BC, that is great. I mean, good for them. They have a bunch of funds coming from other provinces. But I've also been part of a province where once we were members, the support dried up. There wasn't people on campus. There weren't individuals there. So I would say that if we want to have an engaged campus, I agree wholeheartedly. But to do that, we need to hold the people who are supposed to represent us to Student NS to just as much account as we're holding Student NS to us.
To speak in favor of the motion? Sir? Yep. It's the mic.
Excellent. Hi, my name is Mitch Broden. I'm a first-year law student here. And I find that if SNS is an external advocacy organization, they're doing a terrible job because I'm not sure if you've known, tuition fees have been going up and up and up. Education is less accessible than ever. And I think we should just not give them any more money. Like, they haven't dealt with very well with misogyny issues. They haven't dealt well with racism issues. I think we can do better here. And I don't think we even need to be part of CFS or SNS. I think we can just do it here at Dalhousie. So that's a whole other topic. But yeah, that's all I got to say.
I believe the next individual who wishes to speak in opposition to the motion is Elizabeth.
All right, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Elizabeth. I'm a second-year Masters of Applied Science student in the Department of Industrial Engineering. I've been on DSU Council on and off for the 3 years previously to this year. And I have 6 things that I would like to say. They all kind of flow into each other, so bear with me. 1, people have already harped on this, so I won't continue, but there's no actual definite plan for what we're going to do once we have the money. I think that a budget for $95,000 is only fair to ask for from an organization with a couple million kicking around. 2, even if we did have a plan, we do not have a consensus on what we would advocate for and what the Dalhousie Student Union and Dalhousie students want to see as our advocacy priorities. There was an advocacy planning committee that was passed at the DSU meeting on February 26th, 2014, and it was supposed to be done to create these goals in consultation with the students, have it approved by council so that we could say, these are who we are, this is what we stand for. It never happened. The DSU executive failed to have that come to fruition, and as a result, we don't know what we stand for. And even if we did, we have no longevity in the DSU in comparison to SNS, where there's less turnover year to year than on the DSU executive. So SNS is focused in a single direction on academic advocacy, a unified goal for all of that money. So our money, the $95,000, goes in with other, students, organizations' money to petition the province as one voice, which we otherwise are not going to be able to do. Number 4, advocacy is not a zero-sum game. SNS can be allowed to advocate for us on a larger scale and a broader horizon, and we here at home can still continue to do the really great one-on-one, more individual advocacy events that hit people, like one-on-one, while the SNS organization does some of the heavy lifting, petitioning the provincial government. Number 5, we can't just blame SNS for us not knowing about SNS. We just censored a letter that the SNS would have probably appreciated read out. not just because we didn't want the chair to read it, but because we didn't want an individual to exercise their right to free speech to read it. And lastly, the optics on us leaving an organization we have 40% of the membership is pretty bad. We're going to look to the provincial government as if we don't care about Acadia, SFX, and CBU, which, by the way, is being sued by the Canadian Federation of Students right now.
I'm not speaking for or against, I just wanted to point out a few things that have been mentioned. To reiterate, again, it's not $95,000 that will be coming back to the DSU. There's a levy that's run every single year we collect the money. It's $3 per full-time student, $2 per part-time student. That's about $40,000. That would just go back to students. We wouldn't collect that levy anymore. The remaining money is about $45,000. It comes from our operational budget, and that would be redistributed. As you may know, there was a referendum run last year by a number of students who wanted to take the money that we collected from levy and put it into an independent advocacy fund. It was a very poorly worded levy, as a number of them were last year, the questions, and so it didn't pass. It was confusing at the very least. As far as attendance goes in Students Nova Scotia, I'd like to clarify that Rams and I have actually switched off on attendance for the entire year, and one or more of us, we've had more attendance actually, have been at the meetings than is being made clear by specifically this letter. We've been in attendance for basically everything. And again, if it wasn't Roms, it was me. And if it wasn't just one of us, it was both of us. So you actually had two people from Dal at the table most of the time. I'd also like to add that I did read through this letter, and I wasn't informed until today, when I also wasn't even sent a copy of this letter, that I would be considered unable to speak on behalf of the board because a lack of attendance or something else came into play. I was informed that I'm not being deprived of my board membership, just deprived of my ability to speak on behalf of the board because I'm apparently unreliable in that regard. As far as engagement goes, I sent a list of students. Amelia, your name was on it. They reached out to me a number of times. I reached right back out to them. I met with their female engagement coordinator, who actually left them after a very short amount of time, unfortunately. Met with her, gave emails, gave lists of students. Please reach out to these people. I've talked about Students Nova Scotia at what are they called? Council meetings. I've given them names. They've asked me for names for a number of their committees that they've run when they were running the now it's called Now or Never, but previously it was the Farewell to Nova Scotia campaign, and have always, to the best of my ability at council, made a point of please reach out to me if you'd like to engage with this organization. If no one reaches out to me, and basically no one has, it's not really, I'm not just gonna like toss you at them. That's basically it. Also, I'd like to point out, I did reach out to them last week a number of times about what they would like me to bring forward, and I had a meeting with them on Friday discussing what was going on with all of this, and I got nothing.
I have Brogan. Brogan? Okay, does anyone wish to speak in opposition to the motion? Amr. Does anyone wish to speak in opposition to the motion? Hema. Oh, and the one before was in favor. Okay, so Brogan, yeah, it is you. I was right.
Okay. Whew, lots of people. Okay. I'm Brogan. I'm just here as a student. Everyone's been kind of touching on the money issue, and so my general idea around that is that if we're voting to stay in SNS, we're voting to stay in with the status quo. And from what I've read from this letter that's been circulating from South House, that we're paying money to an organization that isn't actually advocating for things that we want here at Dal. So, like the march that we were in a couple days ago, they didn't support, and we're still giving them $95,000. So I think we as a general student body, if we're voting for the status quo, if we keep that money here, or not even all of it, I guess half of it goes back to us, then we as a student body have the force and the power to decide how we want our advocacy to go. It's not that we don't have a plan, it's that now we can voice our own opinions, and we as Dalhousie can then make those advocacy options. We don't not have a plan, we have all of us. And if we're voting with the status quo, to me it sounds like we're voting for a little bit of a sexist organization who doesn't support the reduction of tuition fees, which is not that cool.
You're raising a point of privilege.
Yeah, that's wasting our time every time anyone applauds on either side.
Okay, the next on the speakers list is Yazan. Is Yazan here? Okay, the next on the speakers list to speak in opposition is Amr. Did you say that you were in opposition? Did you say that you were in opposition to the motion? Yeah.
Hello, everybody. My name is Amr. I'm the International Student Rep, and I also serve as an executive on the Dalhousie International Student Association Council. I just want to say that SNS, in essence, is a lobbying group or a PR firm or whatever you want to call it. If we have fundamental difference between our vision and theirs, we cannot work together. We've been having problems for the last 3 years with different executives, boards, and that next line of executives who are coming, who are willing to be running next year, still do not feel comfortable working with them. If we cannot have a common vision, a common path of how advocacy should be, I don't think we should continue working together. Right now, we're beating a dead horse. There is no point in continuing a relationship with SNS if all of us are contesting working with them, the current executives, the previous executives, and most probably the future ones too. So that's all I have to say. I think the relationship has been sour for far too long. It's time for a breakup right now. And yeah, that's it. To sum up, SNS sucks, DSU rocks.
I'll remind people that when I ask if you want to speak in opposition to it's in opposition to the motion, right? Not in opposition to Students Nova Scotia, right? I asked them the question. So, does anyone wish to speak in opposition to the motion? Hema.
Okay, so I'm Hema. I'm here not to speak on behalf of any group. I'm here to speak as myself as a student. If we do leave, from my understanding is I would save $3 on my tuition, and I would lose the chance of being part of an organization that is lobbying with the government for tuition fees to be reduced or freezed or whatever. But isn't that what they're doing? No, but then my question is about so what are they doing? Because I haven't heard anyone telling me what they're doing. Is my concern is that no one's been saying this is what they're doing. They got to be doing something. So what are they doing? Is my question. Okay, thank you.
I'd like to be able to hear Hema speak.
Thank you for ever shouted that in the back. So then my question is, if we leave them and are we doing that on our own? Are we going to be doing that on our own to favor or what are the chances of us as DAL alone going to the government or to whoever would be the person we're going to and asking for them to freeze it or lower it as to if we go as a whole with SNS and other schools in Nova Scotia. So instead of leaving them, why don't we fix them to make it better? Because then we'd be a stronger group going as a whole than two separate groups voting that essentially want the same thing. That would be my question regarding that. And that I'm just curious if someone can answer that. If somebody could even just tell us, what do they do? That'd be great. Other than that, I'm good.
Okay, so the next individual on the speakers list who wishes to speak in favor is Rams.
All right, everyone. I'm actually going to give a presentation to council at the Friday meeting, so I don't want to give any spoilers out just yet. But essentially, I am. I'm just kidding. No. So basically, I am currently Vice President Administration of Students of Nova Scotia. If there's any allegations about the quality of my performance, it wasn't raised in the letter because we have been contributing fully to this organization. Every moment we have Jacqueline and I have been participating. Anyway, besides that point, my concerns aren't about the organization's stances. They are not about the culture of sexism and racism that might exist. My arguments are not about personal differences with anybody in that organization. My simple question is $90,000 a good use of the DSU's money? Are we getting a good return on $90,000 in students in Nova Scotia? And I'm sorry to say that we're not. And you will, I have a full explanation in my report, and I will also touch on the points that Hema mentioned around what they actually do, why I think it's lacking, and how we are building capacity to do our own independent advocacy. So that's it. Thanks.
The next individual who wishes to speak in opposition to the motion has already spoken, and there's a rule against speaking twice, and so now I'd ask if anyone else wants to speak in opposition to the motion. Well, the next one on the next neutral is quite a ways down, so I want to ask if anyone wants to speak in opposition. Yes, sir. What's your name? Bill? Sure.
Hello. I usually watch the council meetings on YouTube in my underwear on my couch, so it's just easier that way. My name is Bill Crowley. I'm a first-year Master's in Public Administration student over at the Row. We study public policy, public economics, constitutional law, government structures, and management. Before that, I was president of the Students' Union at Cape Breton University, currently being sued by the Canadian Federation of Students. I was a delegate to Students Nova Scotia. Before coming to DAL, I worked for 1 year for a consulting company, national consulting company. We dealt primarily with student unions and student governments, and our job was everything from health and dental insurance consulting to helping people learn how to advocate properly, giving them media training, conflict resolution management, things like that. Then I spent a year working for an MLA for the province of Nova Scotia, and I can tell you that from the bottom of my heart, as a former student leader, as a Dalhousie student, as someone who's worked as a consultant for advocacy groups and ultimately is now a master's in public policy student, I think it's a tremendously bad idea to leave Students Nova Scotia. And I understand that the relationship isn't there right now, that things aren't going well, but there's not really a lot of time here, but I would absolutely love to sit down for coffee with any counselor or any student that wants to vote on this issue. It's an extremely important one, and I can tell you that when I was a student leader, and well, really up until the last couple of years, the relationship between Dalhousie and every other student organization and Students Nova Scotia was an extremely positive one. I've certainly never got the impression they were misogynistic in any way. In fact, they've done an incredible amount of work. They've actually tackled this head on, and I was just discussing it with a former student leader as well. They saw great improvement in that field. So anyone that wants to talk to me, please do.
Next I have Aaron.
Firstly, thanks everyone for coming to talk about issues. The first thing I wanted to say is beware of people who defend Students Nova Scotia without actually talking about Students Nova Scotia. The first things you'll hear are the process and litigation, or some allegations against certain individuals trying to assassinate their character. I'd really be interested in people actually talking about why the stance that tuition doesn't need to be decreased is actually valid. I'm glad for this opportunity to have these conversations, but let's not get distracted. Secondly, there's so many things, I guess. One thing I did want to mention is the stance on international students, because I think that's something that the DSU hasn't always done a good job with, but has tried to improve in the last 3 years, engaging international students and trying to lobby for the differential fee to be decreased. We did a lot of organizing last year, held a party where we smashed a piñata, media stunts, among other things. And then Students Nova Scotia put out a paper recommending that differential fees go up. The recommendation specifically was that international student differential fees should be the cost of tuition plus the cost of the government grant. Now calculating that would mean drastic increase at a university like Mount St. Vincent and marginal increases at Dal. For international students we are working with, this was incredibly insulting, but just one of the many, many insulting things Students Nova Scotia has done in their policies or actions. They were presenting at a conference in Montreal where they were laughed at by student leaders across the country for their stance that universities were fully funded. Talking to students every day, people laugh at the fact because you see that the library doesn't have books. Students aren't coming to school, or students in school have tons of debt because of tuition levels. It's very, very obvious that universities are not funded adequately, that the cuts we've been receiving have been detrimental. I think that's insulting to all of us. That's one of a couple reasons, but I'm looking forward to hearing more. Thanks.
I'm not sure what the individual in the glasses behind John, who is looking behind, in the hat, drinking the pop. Did you wish to speak in favor or opposition to the motion? Okay, sorry. So you'll be the one next after Jomel. And sorry about that. I just didn't know if you wanted to speak yay or nay. So I'd invite Jomel.
So I actually forgot what my, oh yeah, I got it. My question was, yeah, just to add up with what Hima said, I think he asked a question, what is SNS doing or what has the DSU done? I just want to repeat the same question, what has the DSU done with the advocacy for this year? It's just that MOU negotiations, that's what the day of action happened, was just a coincidence that happened this year. If the MOU happens every 3 years, if there was no MOU, would we still advocate for the tuition fee hike thing? So what are the other things that the DSU has advocated for this year?
And sorry, I didn't catch your name. Shay, come on up.
Okay, just a couple quick points. I'm just speaking here as a student. I believe that one thing we've been talking about, I believe this is a really important issue. There's been a couple points raised about what can Dalhousie do on our own, and I do believe that coming together in a group with an organization that represents us holds a lot more power than if we are as individuals. So that being said, question that's been brought up a lot is, what does SNS do? I've heard a lot of people defending SNS without a lot of people really explaining what they've been advocating for, except that I've heard that they are not advocating for a reduction in tuition fees. So I'm a student. I've been a student on and off since 2011. A big factor for me in why I'm attending university is honestly cost. It's really expensive. I don't have a lot of money for my parents, and I don't know if I can justify taking on $30,000, $40,000 in debt. So that being said, I have a hard time being a member of an organization that does not reflect my interests as a student. In terms of what I have heard SNS done, I know that they had an action a couple weeks ago calling on the government to implement the Ivany report. I don't know, it was called Now or Never. They had a big clock out. I don't know how familiar people are with the Ivany report. I know a little bit, but it's the same report that the Broughton report just used to justify reducing taxes on the rich and introducing taxes on things like diapers. I don't know if this is a report I really want to get behind. And also a question has been said about what would we do if we were to leave SNS? And I think that that's a valid question and something that merits further discussion. I do think that this is an important first step before we can lay the groundwork for having a discussion about how we can put our collective resources into an organization that will reflect our interests as students.
So I'll note that there's room for about 2 more speakers, and I know that you had your hand up, Dan, for a while. No, okay. Okay. So does anyone else wish to speak in opposition to the motion? I saw Amelia's hand first.
Hi, my name's Amelia. I'm the Vice President of the Science Society, and I chair the Advocacy Committee within the Faculty of Science. I understand that a lot of larger issues have been discussed so far. I just wanted to speak about my personal experience with Students Nova Scotia. Last semester, when Jacqueline mentioned that they're hoping to increase student engagement at DAL, I reached out to them. They were really happy that I reached out. The executive director and the equity officer came to see myself and the president of the Science Society. We talked with them for about an hour. We talked about affects science students, what we would like to see. They were really interested in following up, coming to council meetings, doing whatever they could. I was really happy with how they came to speak to me and how interested they were in what happened in the Faculty of Science, and I was just impressed with that, and I thought that it was really good that they came to visit us and how enthusiastic they were. So I had a good experience.
And Ali's the last on the speakers list.
Hey everyone, thanks for letting me speak. I'll keep it pretty quick because I'm the last on the speakers list, which is an honor, maybe. My name's Ali Caladine. I sit on DSU Council as a Senate rep, as well as I put a couple 100 hours into organizing the day of action. I just wanted to talk about the positive spin on the idea of leaving. Not SNS is shitty for all these reasons, but actually we organized the Day of Action, and that is one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had. We were out talking to students all over the place, in every faculty, on every campus. We were like having these amazing debates with people, and I think that everybody who was out at the Day of Action had a really great time and learned a lot, and there are so many people who are now engaged in government who weren't engaged before, and it was such a cool experience. We did that with, starting off with no budget. We were not paid, anybody who did volunteering on that. We had a very cool impact and reached a lot of students. We ended up getting money from the DSU, which was amazing and made things a lot easier. But imagine what we could do if we ran our campaigns that way. If we had students coming forward and saying, this is an issue that I really care about. DSU, can you support me in making this happen? Can you support me engaging students with this issue? And that's how we are running our things. I also sit on Senate, which means I have a fair bit of experience with the advocacy that's been happening within our university. I've had some meetings with Florazone where cool conversations have happened and things have happened. We've gotten a student to be on the committee talking about divestment, which is really cool through advocacy that we're doing there. And none of that took $95,000. I just think there are a lot of really cool opportunities of what we could be doing and that we're already doing with no money. So what could we be doing otherwise? I guess I just wanted to put that positive spin on it. It can be like a really exciting thing to leave, and I believe in it. Also gonna throw it out there that like in all my I think most people in this room I recognize and maybe recognize me, and I'm like around and I've had interest in Students Nova Scotia. I've never personally reached out and been like, I wanna have a meeting with you about this because I don't have anything to meet with them about. But the only Students Nova Scotia exec that I've met was someone who had like left because they're a woman and like didn't feel welcome. And that's the only conversation I've had with a leader from SNS before. So those are my points. Thank you.
So thank you for everyone for contributing. I'll note that we're at the end of our allotted time. And so, yeah. The next people on the speakers list were Alex in favor, Sagar neutral, John in favor. That's in temporal order. What's that? You can't speak twice though, right? Do you have a point of information?
No, motion to extend the time for those 3 people that were just to exhaust the speakers list.
And will they get 2 minutes each?
Yes.
Seconded by Scott. Any other suggestions for time for debate? Yes, Elizabeth?
Just to note that the meeting was supposed to go from 4:30 to 6, and before anything else, there needs to be a motion to extend. I believe it's my understanding that general meetings are 3 hours in length unless otherwise extended. And I see Kaylee nodding her head, which makes me happy. I would agree with you that that was an error and that was unfortunate. I mean, I've had my own troubles with putting things on the website as well. So, like, it wasn't me who posted the notice. So the motion is to allow these 3 individuals 2 minutes each to speak. Does anyone else have any other suggestions? Do we have quorum? Because we need quorum to vote on anything. So I would ask anyone with a card and a bracelet to have a seat. Yeah, there are plenty of seats. Yeah, because if there's no vote on anything. So don't mind me while I'll count you. You're coming back. Yeah. Yeah, we have quorum. So, yes? Okay, so, yeah, so if you don't have the right to vote, then I'd ask you to stand up while the quorum vote happens. I counted 75 with Basima, so
I did not. I did count Chloe. So okay. So 2 minus 2. Yeah, we still have quorum. Okay. So the motion is to allow these 3 people to speak for 2 minutes each, and there's no one has any other suggestions on extending time for debate. Seeing none, do you understand the question? Yes. All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Would anyone like their dissents or abstentions noted in the minutes? Jomel voted? Okay. Anyone else? What's your name? Julian. How did you vote? Okay. Anyone else? Okay. So we have Alex.
Hi, everyone. Killam, and I sit on the board of the South House, and also it's my second year on council. I would like to just give the perspective of the South House. We have circulated the letter that we wrote last year, which is actually about CASA and SNS, but SNS is relevant now only. I just want to say that we met with SNS when they were doing their Mend the Gap campaign. They came to South House wanting us to participate in their campaign, and it was a campaign, some can correct me if they want to, but it was a campaign about mending the gap, women in politics, etc. So we met with them and we asked to include the word sexism in the reasons why women or not dudes were involved in politics, and they said no, they didn't support the fact that sexism was a factor. So that's like a pretty important point, and we decided to not campaign.
Let's go with Sager.
There he is. Hey folks, I want to speak neutrally about this, and then I probably should have retracted what I was going to say, but then we voted on it, and now it's a whole thing, and here we are. All I was going to say was, because I was hoping that we would go for, against, neutral, and when I was neutral, all I wanted to say was, and I still am neutral, all I wanted to say was, I'm pretty sure everyone here has made up their minds, so let's call a vote. So I'm sorry to take your time up right here while I'm talking to you, but we voted on it, and it seemed like you folks wanted to know what I had to say, and all I wanted to say was that we all know how we're voting, so let's just vote.
So now we're in a difficult spot because someone has called the question. John?
Hi, everybody. My name's John. I'm an economics student, and I've been involved this year with a group called Dal Students Against Fee Hikes. We started back in September, just as a group of students from many different departments and many different campuses across Dalhousie. And we've done a lot of really cool stuff over the last year. We've done events like Rock the Hike concert with it was at the Sexton campus, and to get in, you had, as a cover, you had to sign a petition. So it's trying to find creative ways to engage students. We've done a lot of work that actually we're really proud of. And we've been doing this because this is a very important year in student advocacy. This year, every university president is in negotiations with the government about a memorandum of understanding. It will set university funding and tuition fee regulations over the next 4 years. It is the single most impactful document affecting students between now and the next provincial election. So the question you need to ask of your student leaders and organizations representing them is, what are we doing around that? And so what Dal Students Against Fee Hikes has done is try to engage students and bring the message that students support reducing tuition fees, restoring core funding that had been cut, and converting student loans into needs-based grants. At our first meeting in September, the president of students, or the chair of Students Nova Scotia, actually attended our meeting. He was invited over Facebook, and he came. And all he did at the meeting was make fun of our literature. He insulted a new volunteer, called him a Nazi, actually, because he suggested using a bar. And that was the last we heard of them. Students Nova Scotia has not engaged with us since that point. So you'd think that student organizations would be doing everything they can to support groups like Dal Students Against Fee Hikes. This is a unique MOU negotiation year because it's the first time in a very long time that students haven't been allowed to participate in the process at all. So when we did things like the Day of Action back in January, immediately after that, we got calls from the Finance Minister and the Advanced Education Minister to have meetings. So student action actually got us to the table. When this organization that says if we just moderate our positions and tell the government what they want to hear but not necessarily need to hear, we'll at least be at the table. But they failed to do even that. So if you want to be able to say that we want to do effective advocacy, you need to do campaigns and lobbying. It's both or it's neither. So we need to ask some questions. They oppose reducing tuition fees. They support increasing differential fees. So why is this organization taking stances that Dalhousie students unambiguously support? Why are we giving $95,000 a year to an organization that is getting less results than unpaid volunteers? These are the questions we need to ask. So I support getting out. Thanks.
I don't like doing that, John, but I have to. Okay, so now we've reached the end of our allotted time for debate. And so we've had ample debate on both sides. I just kind of quorum. I don't think anyone left. Okay, perfect. Perfect. So I would hesitate to move to a vote without another quorum vote, though. So let me just do that. And don't mind me. Yeah, so I'd ask if anyone does not have a bracelet to just stand, remain standing while I do a quick quorum count. And if you have a bracelet, just there's some chairs up here, and I want to make sure that this is all above board before we go for a vote. Yeah, no one bites here, so don't mind me. How many standing, or how many not in the seats here? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have 80. Okay, so I mean the question's on the motion, and we've had ample debate on both sides, as I said. And I'm proposing this time to have a voice vote, and so we all know it's very apparent in here who here has a card and who doesn't. And so, I mean, if you purport to vote with your voice when you don't have a card, you're not really making a fool of me. You're just kind of making a fool of yourself. I think that's all I really need to say. So, do you understand the question? No. No? Would you like the motion read a second time? Okay. Whereas the Dalhousie Student Union bylaws allow for a general meeting to be called when a petition signed by 100 members of the DSU is presented to the president, and whereas general meetings are one of two ways that individual members of the student union are able to set the direction of the union, and whereas the issue of the $95,000 students currently pay to Students Nova Scotia is an important issue for the general student union membership, and whereas Students Nova Scotia requires notice of any changes to membership by March 1st, therefore, we, the undersigned, petition the president of the DSU to hold a special general meeting at 5 p.m. on Wednesday, February 26, 2015, for the sole purpose of debating and deciding on the following item motion. Be it resolved that the Dalhousie Student Union terminate its membership in Students Nova Scotia. And as I've already said, this is an advisory vote. The actual vote has to go through council, which is happening on Friday. Do you understand the question? Yes, sir. And so, as I said at the beginning of the meeting, I'm proposing a voice vote. If anyone would like to move to a hand vote, I would direct you to the union rules here, section 9, sub B. During the vote, any member may move a motion for an alternate vote, provided the request is made immediately after the result is announced. So I'm going to ask for yeas and nays, and then I'm going to say, in my opinion, one side has it or not. Okay? And then after that, someone can move for an alternate vote. And that's by show of hands or secret ballot. And so, I mean, I said what I was going to do at the beginning of the meeting, and like, you know, we'll cross that bridge if we need to get to it. So, do you understand the question? Would all those in favor of the motion please say yay? Yay. Would all those against the motion please say nay? Nay. So, in my opinion, the yays have it. I would propose at this time to move to announcements. Does anyone have any announcements? That's the next item on the agenda. Yes, Kaylee?
There's going to be another general
if anyone has it, thanks, Kelly. If anyone has any other announcements, I'd invite you to come to the mic. This can concern anything, really. Anything happening at the student union, right? Not like, you know, my cousin just had a baby or whatever. Oh, okay. I don't know if I can do that. Well, what do you want to do for it? You're not going to say that there was a roll call vote. You're not going to say that there was a hand vote. Are there any other announcements? Jasmine has moved to adjourn. Does the motion have a seconder? Alex? All those in favor of adjourning? There's your picture. All those opposed? We're adjourned, people. Thanks so much. What's that? Sure. Thanks, Chloe. I know, so we're having the council meeting here, right? So we should probably